This is the F3 Sydney service to Parramatta upriver, and this is the Sydney to Olympic Park to Rydalmere leg. This is a rather longish leg compared to the other previous legs before. But we are just now passing the massive sanctuary construction site from the Japanese construction company Sekisui House here. And past those electricity pylons, we now enter Newington Reserve or Newington Armory Park. This used to be, like so many other waterfront places that we see on this journey, used to belong to the Royal Australian Navy. But in the lead up to the Sydney Olympics, the proximity of this armament reserve, because it is the armory, so it had a lot of armaments, its proximity to the populace made the decision quite easy for them to shut down and move south. I believe on the south coast is where the armory of the Royal Australian Navy are now. So we are just passing the proof yard. So this was built in World War II in anticipation for the Pacific Theatre. So if you actually go into the armory itself, it is open to the public. You will see a lot of buildings that were built to withstand any unexpected or unwanted explosions. This is just the Invictus Games remnant. So we did have the Invictus Games here, and I did see a couple of Invictus Games sports at the Botanical Gardens where they did the cycling. And so they've just placed it here, but this is the Newington Armory proper. So these are the cranes that would take, I suppose, the weapons off the barges and into those buildings as you see there. So it's quite a massive park. That's the Armory Wharf Cafe, which currently is shut down. But they've turned the Armory now into a massive playground. And along the foreshore here are bike paths. So at least they have kept this greenery, because as you can see, there's a lot of demand and pressure to build such high density buildings. So here we are just going around upriver, and we are now actually passing the grounds of Silverwater Jail as well. So the Blaxland family were prominent landowners in this part of the world, and their estate or their house is now part of Silverwater Jail. So here the bridge, Silverwater Bridge there is on the right. But what is newly built here, and just past these copse of trees, you will see a massive sports centre developed for Cricket New South Wales. So it's actually quite a big building to support the future 11 for Australia, I suppose. So this is publicly accessible. There is a cafe inside, but as you see, the bike path there does pass. And there are the cricket nets here. So this is a relatively new building, and is right next to Silverwater Bridge. So Silverwater Bridge is similar to, I suppose, the Gladesville Bridge in that sense, that same architectural style. And this is passing Silverwater Park. And if you have noticed, the ferry was very fast until Silverwater Bridge, and then it slows down because any private watercraft is not allowed past Silverwater Bridge. So it is slowing down. And this is quite a significant tributary in the early days of the First Fleet. This is Duck River, and from all accounts, Captain Arthur Phillip had a crew and to explore the Sydney Basin. This is where they landed, and they saw a lot of ducks. That's why it's called Duck River. And that formalised their decision to continue in the Sydney Basin. So quite a historical river, that Duck River. So now we are entering the slower parts of the river. As you can see, there are all these red posts and Greenpost, which is supposed to be the channel for boats to go through. The river does get it's pretty shallow as it goes up towards Parramatta. On the left hand side is Camellia, and that used to be an industrial site, and they are proposing to build a brand new suburb on that. So behind the trees and the shrubs and the mangroves that you can see there is actually development there to turn that into a massive new suburb. Not so dissimilar, I suppose, to, as you can see, Wood Wentworth Point and Rhodes and Meadowbank. So we are slowing down. I think it's only 10 knots per hour here, just because it is very shallow. I have seen boats get stuck during low tide, because this is a tidal river, and as mentioned, filming this sequence took me a couple of days just because I could not go further up to Parramatta due to the tides. So we are following I think a maritime barge that tends to clean the river of all its wash, especially after heavy rain. There's a lot of pollution that goes into the water as a result. But you can see now there is Rydalmere Wharf. So as mentioned, this is a rather longish ride, just because from Silverwater Bridge upwards you have to take it very slow, and private watercraft. I've not even seen any kayaks or any one-person watercraft here. So I think they do tend to impose that regulation that if you're not a ferry, you can't come up, or if you're not a government boat, you can't come up either. So this is the very genteel part of the river at Rydalmere Wharf.